The hospital room was a study in sterile despair, its white walls a stark contrast to the vibrant life that had once filled it. Elena Chen lay motionless, her once brilliant eyes now dulled by pain and medication. Tubes and wires created a mechanical spider web around her frail body, a testament to humanity's medical limitations and astronomical healthcare costs. Marcus sat beside her, his fingers tracing the holographic display of her medical bills. Each line was a dagger: experimental treatments, cutting-edge immunotherapies, quantum cellular regeneration techniques that promised miracles but delivered only financial ruin. 3 generations of the Chen family had worked to accumulate enough credits to even be in this private xenomedical facility, and now it would all evaporate in moments. "They're going to disconnect me tomorrow," Elena whispered, her voice a rasp that cut through the clinical silence. "The insurance algorithms have determined my survival probability is below acceptable economic parameters." Marcus clenched his fists. As a xenoeconomic researcher, he understood the cold calculus better than most. Humans were still the newest, most vulnerable species in the galactic economic system. Their medical technologies were primitive, their economic impact minimal, their political influence non-existent. To the vast, ancient civilizations that controlled galactic resources, individual human lives were nothing more than statistical anomalies. His mother's hand reached out, surprisingly strong. "Don't just survive, son. Make them remember humanity." Those words echoed with the weight of generations. The Chen family had always been outsiders, radical thinkers who challenged the established economic narratives. Marcus's groundbreaking research on adaptive economic systems had been too revolutionary, too disruptive. He'd been systematically discredited, his academic papers buried, his research grants revoked. But Elena knew her son. The system that was killing her had created the very weapon that would challenge it. As the first ray of artificial dawn crept through the hospital's adaptive windows, an encrypted data burst arrived on Marcus's personal comlink. The encryption was unlike anything he'd ever seen. A quantum-locked message that seemed to phase in and out of existence, defying standard communication protocols. When he finally cracked the encryption, the contents made his breath catch. Schematics of the Galactic Consortium's most secure installation. Detailed blueprints of the Centennial Resource Auction, an event so exclusive that entire civilizations had gone to war over invitations, and a single line of text that would change everything. EPSILONERIDANIQUDSAVEVRY. The Galactic Auction was more than just a trading event. It was the economic heartbeat of civilization, where entire star systems changed hands in moments, where the fate of millions was decided by the subtle dance of credits, influence, and technological prowess. Humans had been explicitly banned for generations, branded as economic wildcards, too unpredictable to be trusted. Marcus understood the message's true meaning. This wasn't just about saving his mother. This was about proving humanity's worth to a galaxy that had written them off as irrelevant. He looked at his mother's sleeping form. The medical display showed her life signs gradually fading, a countdown to her programmed disconnection. Outside the window, the first human colony ships could be seen in the distance, tiny specks of human hope against the vast, indifferent backdrop of space. "I'll make them remember," Marcus whispered. "I'll make them never forget." The encrypted message continued to pulse softly on his comlink, a beacon of impossible possibility. The Galactic Auction had one rule: no humans allowed. Marcus Chen was about to break that rule in the most spectacular way possible. The abandoned quantum research station orbiting Titan became Marcus Chen's war room. Stolen equipment, black market hardware, and cobbled-together technology transformed the decaying space into a nerve center of impossible planning. Every credit, every resource he owned would be sacrificed to this single mission. His first contact was a ghost, Area Solarin, a name whispered in the darkest corridors of galactic diplomacy. Once a rising star in the Nexus Concordat's diplomatic corps, she'd been exiled for exposing a trade manipulation that went far deeper than anyone dared acknowledge. Her fall from grace was spectacular, her knowledge dangerous. "You're either the most brilliant human I've ever met." Aria's holographic projection flickered as she materialized in the station's central command, or the most suicidal. Marcus spread out the stolen schematics, layer after layer of the Galactic auction's security systems. Each projection revealed impossible complexity: quantum encryption, bioadaptive scanning protocols, neural network threat detection that could identify an infiltrator down to the molecular level. Penetrating this system wasn't just difficult, it was mathematically impossible. "Impossible is just a lack of imagination," Marcus responded, his fingers dancing across adaptive holographic interfaces. The quantum adaptive disguise was more than just a technological marvel. It was a complete reimagining of identity. Marcus worked with black market xenobiological engineers, developing a holographic camouflage that could dynamically respond to the most advanced scanning techniques known in the galaxy. Layer 1. Genetic Scrambler. A nanomatrix that could randomize genetic markers in real time, creating a biological signature that was simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. Traditional DNA scanning would find nothing, or everything. Layer 2. Neural Pattern Randomizer. And quantum entangled neural interface that could generate thought patterns mimicking multiple alien species. It wasn't just about looking alien, it was about thinking alien. Layer 3. Cultural Mimicry Algorithms. Decades of diplomatic communication logs, xenolinguistic databases, and cultural interaction models fed into an AI that could generate perfect, context-sensitive responses for any conceivable diplomatic scenario. The cost was astronomical. Marcus liquidated everything: his research patents, family inheritance, even selling his groundbreaking economic models to the most dangerous technological brokers in 3-star systems. Each transaction was a carefully orchestrated dance, leaving no traceable path. Aria watched the preparations with a mixture of professional admiration and growing concern. The moment you enter that auction, you become the most wanted individual in the known galaxy. There's no going back. Marcus didn't respond immediately. Instead, he pulled up a holographic image of his mother, the medical display showing her rapidly declining life signs. Some things are worth everything. Their unlikely alliance was sealed not by friendship, but by a mutual desire to burn the current galactic economic system to the ground. Aria had her own reasons for wanting revenge. Years of diplomatic manipulation, entire civilizations crushed under the weight of economic policies designed to maintain the status quo. "I spent years collecting evidence," Aria revealed, uploading a massive encrypted data package. Trade manipulations, resource hoarding, systematic suppression of emerging species. The Galactic auction isn't just an economic event. It's a method of population control. The final piece of preparation was perhaps the most dangerous: a custom-designed quantum communication device, so advanced it bordered on being undetectable. If everything went wrong, this would be Marcus's lifeline, his insurance policy. As the last system calibrations completed, Marcus looked at the countdown. 48 hours until the Galactic auction. 48 hours to prepare for the most impossible infiltration in galactic history. "Ready?" Aria's hologram raised an eyebrow. Marcus Chen allowed himself the smallest of smiles. Absolutely. The Nexus station defied every conventional understanding of space and architecture. It was a living construct, part sentient technology, part organic ecosystem, capable of analyzing every molecule that entered its domain. Millions of microscopic sensory nodes constantly shifted, creating and destroying spatial realities faster than most species could comprehend. Marcus felt the station's initial scan wash over him like a quantum tsunami. His carefully constructed disguise wasn't just a costume. It was a living, breathing defense mechanism. The neural mimicry algorithms kicked in, generating a complex identity that was simultaneously mundane and impossible to pin down. He was Zarek Voss, a mid-level trade representative from the Outer Rim Concordance, a deliberately obscure trade consortium that existed in the galactic economic margins. His backstory was a masterpiece of misdirection. Just enough detail to be believable, just enough inconsistency to be forgettable. The auction floor was a sensory nightmare that would have overwhelmed any unprepared mind. Beings of pure energy negotiated with crystalline entities, their communication a symphony of light and quantum fluctuations. Holographic representations of planetary systems danced and shifted, each a potential prize worth entire civilizations. To Marcus's left, a delegation of Helixian gas cloud entities communicated through complex electromagnetic pulses. Their negotiation was a beautiful, terrifying dance of nearly incomprehensible complexity. To his right, silicon-based life forms from the Obsidian Directorate conducted their own negotiations, their communication a series of precise geometric interactions that looked more like advanced mathematics than conversation. Aria's voice whispered through his neural link, her holographic presence carefully masked. Target acquisition protocol initiating. Watch the Andromedan trade delegation. They're the key to the initial information vector. The Andromedan representatives were unlike anything in known biological catalogs. Crystalline humanoids with internal structures that shifted like living kaleidoscopes. They moved with a precision that suggested both extreme intelligence and complete emotional detachment. Their trading style was legendary. They could negotiate the value of entire star systems with less emotional investment than most species would spend choosing a meal. Marcus moved like a predator, his every step calculated. Years of xenoeconomic research had prepared him for this moment. He wasn't just observing, he was mapping. Reading micro-interactions, tracking subtle power dynamics, identifying the invisible threads that connected these galactic powers. A subtle alarm triggered in his neural interface. The station was running a secondary verification scan, more invasive, more precise. Marcus felt his quantum disguise strain under the pressure. One miscalculation, one moment of imperfection, and he'd be exposed. The Andromedan delegation suddenly shifted their attention. Something was wrong. Incoming vector, Aria's voice was tight. They're running a deep scan protocol not in any of our predictive models. Marcus's heart raced. The quantum disguise was a marvel of technology, but no system was perfect. He activated a secondary defense, a quantum interference pattern that would create just enough uncertainty to mask any potential inconsistencies. A crystalline Andromedan representative turned, its internal structures creating a kaleidoscope of shifting colors. Its gaze locked directly on Marcus. Identification verification required, it stated. Not a question. A demand. The entire auction floor seemed to pause. Millions of credits, entire planetary systems, the fate of civilizations, all hung in the balance of the next few moments. Marcus Chen, or rather, Zarek Voss, took a breath. The game was about to get interesting. The Epsilon Eridani system materialized like a living painting, its holographic representation defying conventional understanding of spatial dynamics. Most auction participants saw a cluster of resource-rich planets. Marcus saw something far more dangerous. The primary display rotated slowly, revealing layers of complexity that made seasoned galactic traders catch their collective breath. 7 planets, each a potential civilization-ending resource cache. The first 2 were mineral-rich gas giants, their atmospheric composition so unique they could revolutionize entire technological industries. The third planet, a rocky world, contained mineral deposits that could fuel interstellar expansion for centuries. But it was the fourth planet that made Marcus's neural interface spike with sudden, intense recognition. Hidden within microscopic data layers, accessible only to those who knew exactly where to look, was something far more valuable than physical resources, a complete archaeological record of a previous galactic civilization, completely unknown to current power structures. Aria's voice crackled through his neural link. You see it, don't you? The thing they're all missing. The auction's participants moved like predators, each represented from different galactic powers, sizing up the potential acquisition. The Nexus Concordat's delegation studied mineral composition. The Obsidian Directorate analyzed energy potential. The Helixian gas cloud entities calculated long-term terraforming possibilities. Nobody was looking at the real treasure. Marcus understood now why the encrypted message had stated EPSI loan ERIDA could is 80 EV or 1. This wasn't just about resources. This was about knowledge that could fundamentally reshape galactic civilization. The archaeological data suggested the existence of a previous galactic civilization that had achieved something unprecedented, a truly egalitarian economic system. Their technological and social models suggested methods of resource distribution that could eliminate scarcity, conflict, and systemic oppression. No wonder this information had been buried so deeply. The Andromedan representative who had challenged Marcus earlier continued to watch him with crystalline intensity. Something in Marcus's micro-expressions must have betrayed his understanding, because the alien's internal structures began to shift in a way that suggested heightened alert. Interesting. The Andromedan representative's voice modulated with mathematical precision. You seem to be perceiving more than a standard trade representative would typically observe. Marcus's quantum disguise worked overtime, generating a perfect response of practiced disinterest. Merely doing my due diligence, he responded, his neural interface calibrating linguistic nuances to match the expected communication patterns of his fabricated identity. But the damage was done. Something had changed in the room's delicate power dynamics. The auction's true centerpiece wasn't just the planetary system. It was the information hidden within, a blueprint for a fundamentally different way of organizing galactic resources and societies. Generations of economic manipulation, systemic suppression, and controlled scarcity could be undone by the data contained in these microscopic layers. Aria's voice returned, tight with tension. We've got approximately 12 minutes before they complete a full identity verification. Your window is closing. Marcus watched the holographic representation of Epsilon Eridani rotate, each revolution revealing another layer of its incredible complexity. 7 planets, countless resources, and a secret that could change everything. The real auction was about to begin, and it had nothing to do with planetary resources. Everything hung in the balance. The moment Marcus placed his first bid, the entire auction floor froze. It wasn't the amount, though that was shocking enough. It was the method. Quantum-entangled financial instruments that seemed to simultaneously exist and not exist, leveraging economic algorithms so complex they bordered on sentient mathematics. Each credit was a weapon, each transaction a strategic strike that pierced through layers of galactic economic defenses. Aria worked behind the scenes, her fingers dancing across quantum communication networks. She was more than a support system. She was a tactical ghost, creating diversionary chaos that allowed Marcus to maneuver with surgical precision. Initiating Protocol Omega, she whispered through their encrypted link. Prepare for total economic disclosure. The first layer of Marcus's attack targeted the Nexus Concordat's trade delegation. Their previous resource acquisitions were revealed to be built on a complex web of manipulated data, false geological surveys, and systematically suppressed indigenous populations. Holographic projections materialized, showing decades of economic warfare disguised as legitimate trade. The Obsidian Directorate's representatives began to shift uneasily. Their crystalline structures flickered with what could only be described as panic, a remarkable display of emotion for beings typically known for absolute emotional control. Marcus's bid wasn't just a financial maneuver. It was a surgical deconstruction of the entire galactic economic system. Each quantum credit carried embedded data packets, fragments of evidence that exposed generations of economic manipulation. Trade routes that had seemed legitimate were revealed as elaborate systems of population control. Resource distribution mechanisms that appeared fair were shown to be carefully constructed methods of systemic oppression. The Andromedan representative who had challenged Marcus earlier now watched with a mixture of horror and grudging respect. Their internal crystalline structures began to fragment and reform, a visible manifestation of their processing of the unfolding information. "You're not just bidding," the Andromedan's voice modulated with mathematical precision. "You're dismantling everything." Marcus didn't respond. His focus was absolute. Layer after layer of galactic economic history was peeled back. The auction was no longer about the Epsilon Eridani system. It had become a tribunal, with Marcus as both prosecutor and executioner. The hidden archaeological data from the fourth planet became his primary weapon. Those ancient economic models, a system of true resource equality that predated current galactic powers, were revealed in fragments. Each revelation was like a quantum bomb, destroying carefully maintained illusions of fair trade and collaborative exploration. Aria's voice crackled with intense energy. "Incoming verification protocols. They're preparing a full system lockdown." Marcus knew he had minutes, perhaps less, to complete his mission. Each bid was a calculated risk, each financial instrument a potential pathway to exposure or total victory. The auction floor transformed. What had begun as a routine trading event was now a battlefield of information, with Marcus Chen as its sole human combatant. Holographic displays erupted with conflicting data. Trade histories were rewritten in real time. Entire economic models collapsed under the weight of suddenly revealed truths. "One final push," Aria warned. "Everything depends on the next 30 seconds." Marcus Chen took a breath. The real auction was about to begin. Detection was a living, breathing entity on the Nexus station. Millions of quantum sensors, bioadaptive scanning protocols, and neural network threat detection systems created a defense matrix that could identify an infiltrator down to the molecular level. Marcus Chen knew this. More importantly, he had prepared for this moment his entire life. The station's central intelligence began its final verification protocol. A cascading wave of quantum analysis swept through the auction floor, peeling back layers of reality faster than most species could comprehend. Holographic representations flickered, neural interfaces hummed with intense energy, and the very fabric of space seemed to hold its breath. Incoming total system lockdown. Aria's voice was a razor's edge of tension. "You've got approximately 120 seconds before complete exposure." Marcus's quantum disguise was more than a costume. It was a living, breathing defense mechanism. Layers of biological mimicry, neural pattern randomization, and quantum interference created a statistical ghost that existed simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. The Andromedan representative who had been watching him moved closer. Its crystalline structure shifted with mathematical precision, creating a visual representation of pure, calculated investigation. "Anomaly detected," the Andromedan stated. "Not a question. A declaration of war." Holographic displays erupted around Marcus. Verification protocols, identity cross-references, biological scanning matrices, each layer peeling back another potential point of failure. His entire infiltration hung by the thinnest of quantum threads. But Marcus had prepared for this moment his entire life. The archaeological data from the Epsilon Eridani system's fourth planet became his ultimate weapon. As the station's central intelligence probed deeper, he began to release carefully constructed information packets. Each fragment was a surgical strike, revealing just enough to create maximum confusion, while protecting the core of his true identity. Fragments of a lost civilization's economic model began to materialize, complex mathematical representations of a truly egalitarian resource distribution system that predated current galactic powers. The information was so revolutionary, so fundamentally challenging to existing power structures, that it created its own form of defensive chaos. Identification protocols failing, the station's central intelligence announced. Its voice was a mathematical symphony of confusion. Aria worked behind the scenes, her fingers dancing across quantum communication networks. She created diversionary channels, false verification paths, quantum ghosts that would take centuries to fully unravel. Each moment was a calculated risk. The auction floor transformed. What had begun as a routine trading event became a battlefield of information, with Marcus as its sole human combatant. The Obsidian Directorate's representatives began to fragment, their crystalline structures showing visible signs of stress. The Halixian gas cloud entities ceased their complex negotiations, their electromagnetic pulses becoming erratic and uncertain. Marcus understood the true nature of his mission now. This wasn't just about infiltrating the auction. This was about exposing a system of galactic economic manipulation that had existed for millennia. Final verification in progress, the station's intelligence announced. 12 seconds. Aria's voice came through with absolute clarity. It's all or nothing. Marcus Chen took a breath. The moment of no return had arrived. Time fractured. Marcus launched a counteroffensive that would be studied in diplomatic archives for generations. It wasn't just a hack or an infiltration. It was a complete systemic deconstruction that turned the Galactic Auction's own protocols into weapons of mass revelation. The quantum communication virus he'd developed wasn't a mere piece of code. It was a living algorithm, an adaptive intelligence that understood the most fundamental weaknesses of galactic communication networks. Each line of code was a precision-guided missile, targeting the very foundations of institutional power. Initiating total system breakdown. Aria's voice cut through the quantum noise. All firewalls are about to become irrelevant. The first wave hit the Nexus Station's central communication matrix. Holographic displays erupted with conflicting information. Centuries of hidden trade manipulations, suppressed colonization records, economic warfare disguised as diplomatic negotiations. The auction floor transformed into a battlefield of pure information. The Andromedan representative's crystalline structure began to fracture, sending prismatic light cascading across the auction floor. Its neural interfaces overloaded with the sudden influx of revealed truths. Impossible, it managed to vocalize, a rare display of emotion from a species known for absolute mathematical precision. Marcus understood something fundamental that no other species had comprehended. Information was the most powerful resource in the galaxy, more valuable than any planetary system, more dangerous than any weapon. The archaeological data from Epsilon Eridani's fourth planet became a quantum bomb, fragments of an ancient civilization's economic model. A system so advanced, so fundamentally different from current galactic power structures that it threatened to rewrite everything, began to materialize. Layer after layer of galactic history peeled back. Hidden trade routes revealed systematic oppression of emerging species, resource distribution mechanisms exposed as elaborate population control systems, diplomatic negotiations shown to be carefully constructed illusions of choice. The Obsidian Directorate's representatives began to disintegrate, their crystalline forms literally breaking down under the weight of revealed information. The Halixian gas cloud entities collapsed into chaotic electromagnetic patterns, their complex negotiations reduced to pure raw data. Full system penetration achieved, Aria announced. Her voice was a mixture of triumph and terror. Marcus's final move was unprecedented. Instead of simply exposing the information, he proposed a new model of resource distribution. It wasn't just a critique. It was a complete blueprint for a more equitable galactic society. Every communication channel, every diplomatic network became a conduit for this revolutionary concept. The auction was no longer about trading a planetary system. It had become a tribunal, with humanity as the unexpected prosecutor. 12 major galactic civilizations found their entire historical narratives simultaneously deconstructed and reimagined. Centuries of carefully maintained illusions collapsed in moments. The Nexus Station's central intelligence, a quantum adaptive system designed to manage the most complex diplomatic interactions in known space, began to fragment. Its core protocols, built on assumptions of controlled information and managed conflict, couldn't process the complete systemic revelation. Verification protocols are meaningless, Marcus spoke quietly. The words echoed across every communication channel, in every known language. Aria's final warning came through. One moment. Everything changes in one moment. Marcus Chen took a breath. The galaxy would never be the same. The aftermath was unlike anything in galactic historical records. Marcus Chen returned to Earth not as a pariah, but as a fundamental agent of change. The resources secured from the Epsilon Eridani system were more than just planetary rights. They were a blueprint for a new understanding of human potential in the cosmos. His first act was both personal and revolutionary. The medical research funded by the auction's revelations saved not just his mother, but millions of others trapped by systemic healthcare limitations. Alina Chen watched from her hospital bed as her son reshaped galactic civilization, her dying wish transformed into a universal truth. The Galactic Consortium found itself forced into an unprecedented global conference. 12 major civilizations, their traditional power structures completely dismantled, were now required to negotiate a completely new framework of resource distribution and diplomatic engagement. The archaeological data from the fourth planet of Epsilon Eridani became the most valuable resource in known space. It wasn't just historical information. It was a complete social and economic model developed by a civilization that had solved problems of scarcity, conflict, and systemic oppression millennia before the current galactic powers even achieved interstellar travel. Aria Solarin became the unexpected architect of this new diplomatic landscape. Her decades of suppressed research, combined with Marcus's revelations, provided the foundational framework for a truly equitable galactic society. "We didn't just expose a system," Aria told Marcus during their first debriefing. "We provided a complete alternative." The economic models they unveiled challenged everything. Resource distribution became a collaborative process. Emerging species were no longer viewed as potential threats, but as valuable contributors to a larger galactic ecosystem. The very concept of trade transformed from a competitive model to a cooperative one. Quantum communication networks, once used as tools of control and manipulation, became open-source platforms of shared knowledge. The massive data dumps Marcus had released during the auction created a transparency that fundamentally altered how civilizations interacted. The Andromedan representatives, once the most rigid of the galactic powers, became unexpected allies. Their crystalline intelligence, forced to confront its own systemic biases, became pivotal in implementing the new galactic protocols. Humanity's position changed overnight. No longer seen as a marginal species, humans became recognized as innovative problem solvers, capable of challenging and transforming entrenched systems. Marcus understood the true nature of his mission now. It was never just about the Epsilon Eridani system. It was about proving that fundamental change was possible. His mother's final words echoed with new meaning. Make them remember humanity. He had done more than remember. He had reimagined what humanity could be. The first global human delegation to the newly formed Galactic Collaborative Council included representatives from every continent, every background. They carried with them not just the archaeological data, but a living testament to human potential. Aria stood beside Marcus, watching the first truly collaborative galactic summit begin. "We've changed everything," she said quietly. Marcus looked at the holographic representation of the Epsilon Eridani system, the resource that had started it all. "No," he corrected her. "We've just begun. The galaxy would never be the same, and humanity had made sure of that."